My name is Bertie Krell. I'm the daughter of Bernice Kussell, the founder of Valley of the Sun School, which now is VALLEYLIFE. My mother, Bernice, was born in Billings, Montana in June 18, 1907. Her mother and father moved to another area where they had a ranch, and there they had baby chickens, they had pigs, they had cows and all. They weren't wealthy or anything. My mother was really thrilled. She really enjoyed taking care of these baby animals. A flu epidemic that was in that area, and her mother developed tuberculosis. The father actually, after her mother started hemorrhaging and all, that he sold everything in about 2 weeks and headed for Phoenix, Arizona, because he thought the heat and all would be good for her, and I think that was about 1920. And my mother started going to the high school, Phoenix Union High School, because they didn't have that money to buy new clothes and different things. She didn't really fit in. Of course, the fact that her mother had tuberculosis was another drawback too, that people did not want to be around them because they didn't know, they were afraid that they might catch tuberculosis. Actually, I think it was about a year before she was a senior, there by her junior year, she started going with my father, Michael Earl Kussell. He was 6 years older than she. 1926, I think March, she was a senior in high school. They took off for Florence and got married. She did finish her senior year at Phoenix Union High School. April 10, 1928, I was born. My mother wanted a big family, but I was the only one that came along, much to her disappointment. When I was growing up in Phoenix, Arizona, it was before air conditioning. And we lived near the, I think it was called the Grand Canal. And we would take inner tubes and we would float down to the next bridge, down to 12th Street. We lived on Longview. And we would float down, then we'd get out and walk back and then float down again. That was our swimming pool at the time. Of course, we had, dead animals going down it at times, but my mother started taking care, by the time I was in the 3rd grade, taking care of foster children. She had heard that they were putting them into homes, and so being as she didn't have a big family like she had planned, she started getting foster children. At the most, she had 4, sometimes 5. A number of them were handicapped. My mother kept foster children up until I was through the 8th grade. And she started working at the 24th Street, and I believe it was Van Buren, at the mental hospital. She worked there at least 3 years. When my mother was working at the mental hospital, she saw there where these little children and babies were just kept in bed, or they were tied in a chair all day. They really didn't have much contact with adults. The ones they did have contact with always wore white, and when they would come around them, these little ones would reach out and wanted to be loved and cared for, but of course a lot of times the people that worked there were just too busy. My mother saw the need. She saw the need of how the children should be in a home rather than in the mental institute. In 1945, when I went off to college, come to California, she started taking care of children. She told the welfare, "Bring me the children that no one wants." And they did. They filled her home. I think that one time they released 14. They would call her up and said, "Oh, we're bringing out a baby." And my mother didn't have a crib ready for her, so what we would do is she would put the babies make a bed in a dresser drawer until they could get a crib. They didn't have all the rules and regulations and all that they have for foster homes now, back in those days. Probably the majority of the children that they brought in were a cerebral palsy or crippled in some way or another. My mother realized that they needed to be out in the public, and so she would take them to church whenever she was able to, and all. She would take these 3 or 4 children to church. She was hoping that it would educate people to take care of their little ones in their own home. At that time, in the 40s and 50s, a number of doctors would say, "Don't raise your handicapped child with your normal children." Mother would have parents come to her crying that they've had a little Down syndrome baby. And my mother just would sigh inside. She said, she says, "You take that baby home and raise it with your other children. And if you're not able to keep it, then bring it to me and I'll keep it. I'll take care of them." She just felt like the public should have been educated to take care of their handicapped children, because they are a blessing in a lot of ways. They bring a lot of happiness. The house I was born and raised in had, I think it was 2, maybe 3 bedrooms, but my father added on at different times. But then when my mother had just got so many that she just had to look and see if they might be able to get a larger place where they could have a school, and she knew that they would go into adulthood. One of the fathers of a little girl that she had was a contractor there in Phoenix. And he put a down payment on a home, this big colonial home, went up for sale. And he put the down payment on it so that they were able to get that house in about 1947. He eventually had a school. She had classwork, had teachers. That was on McDowell Road in Phoenix, Arizona, and it just grew from there, I know. The people that would give money or look into a facility like that, they wanted to make the rules. And Mother knew there was only so much money coming in. She wasn't interested in a big fancy office to meet people and all. She wanted all the money to go to the children, because that was her love. She really loved those children and knew that they needed, because that would be the only family that a lot of them would know, because she had a number of them that were children that were orphans. After my mother left, I know she was there at least 18 years of there. Well, she tried to start another facility over in New Mexico. It really didn't work out, so she came back, and eventually, over the years, she came over to California. My mother and father went up to Ojai, where she started another school-like, or at least a home. My father died, though, in 1975. From then, my mother was back and forth to Phoenix, and she would keep in touch with the school and tried to encourage, and would speak at different places to, keep the school's name in front of the population there in Phoenix. And then I eventually I brought her over here and to California, Orange County. And then she died in 1995. My mother was a very godly mother. She was a wonderful mother. In fact, she was my very best friend. And because of my being an only child, my father was not happy to see any boys come around the house when I was a teenager. To keep peace in the family, my mother went on all the dates. I never went dating without my mother. And I never had anyone to object. Well, it wouldn't have helped them if they did object. My mother knew that these children would grow up to be adults, and she really wanted to have the facility, actual homes. My mother would be thrilled with the facility now that they have. She tried to make the facility in every way possible like a home, and she tried to get people in there that were kind and loving and would treat them like, the children, like family. And she knew that they would get older. I don't know that she'd ever dreamed that you would have, 5 or 7 senior citizen homes? That is amazing. Well, I think she would be so thrilled. She'd be so proud of the fact that it did carry on. I know many times she didn't think what was going to happen, but I think she just kept praying daily that the facility would be there, so that the handicapped people and the mentally challenged would have a place, have a home life. I'm just so happy that my mother had the foresight to carry on, even though it was so difficult in so many ways. But I know my mother would be so happy if she was here.